Welcome into Flock Nation Speaks. Flock Nation Speaks. Flock Nation Speaks, your Baltimore Ravens podcast, where we talk about the best team in NFL history. If you're a Ravens fan, I am a huge Joe Flacco fan. Wise Usher once said, "Situations will arise in our lives." I'm talking about shut down. Like you not throwing on Jimmy Smith. Joe is criminally underrated. Criminally, lock him up in cuffs. Criminally underrated. Lamar's put this team as a top 5 offense for the first time in 20 years. Got the arm talent. Jay Cutler had it too. I don't care about this argument against total TDs and all this. Oh, you want to talk about defense? Oh, until next time. All right, welcome into Flock Nation Speaks, your Baltimore Ravens podcast, where we talk about the best team in NFL history. If you're a Ravens fan, of course, and especially going into these playoffs, it is playoffs time. And I got to tell you, I was looking through this Super Bowl challenge, and I want y'all to join me here, whether you're on the live stream or whether you're on the replay, and let me know what you think the perfect scenario to a Ravens Super Bowl is, because the AFC is stacked. The AFC is stacked. Let's be honest. The AFC is stacked even when the AFC is not stacked, right? The AFC is stacked even when there's a lot of injuries throughout the AFC. So we're going to go through this Super Bowl challenge, and we're going to pick the games. And feel free in the comments below to pick the games with me, what you think the best road for the Ravens will be to make it, not only make it to the Super Bowl, but win the Super Bowl, because the NFC games are also in here as well. But I'm going to go ahead and pull it up for you guys as you guys jump in, as you guys join in. And we're going to talk about these games because, of course, today we got the Browns at the Texans, and we got the Dolphins at the Chiefs. 2 games that honestly could go either way. And of course, if you watch the preview, the playoff preview video that I did earlier in the week, you'll understand. It's kind of, this is, the playoffs is, of course, is always any given Sunday, but this definitely is any given Sunday. This definitely is, hey, this is exactly what this is going to be, right? The Texans can come in, even though I think the Texans are technically underdogs, they could come in and beat the Browns, but the Browns on the other side have such a good defense that they could come in and beat them as well. So let's jump into it. I'm going to pull it up for you guys so you guys can follow along with me. Let's see what we got. Okay, this layout is not going to work. Is this a weird spot to put myself in? I don't know if that's going to work, but all right, here we go. Let's look at it. Let's see what we got. And let's make an attempt here. So feel free to follow along with me. Let's start off with the Browns at the Texans right here. So basically, what I like about this the Super Bowl challenge thing, feel free to go and do it for money, have a little bit of fun with it, but we're gonna have a little fun today and do this thing together. And you can go on the superbowlchallenge.nfl.com/game, and you can go on here and you can pick these games, and it's gonna fill out this bracket for you all the way down to the Super Bowl. Oh, I'm definitely gonna have to move myself on this one. Let me just go back down here. And then when the time is right, we'll do it again. All right, so let's look. Let's go. Let's scroll back up real quick. Let's start off with the first game. So coming up at 4:30 today, 4:30 on Saturday, we got the Browns at the Texans. Right now, the thing is, when you look at the first 3 AFC games, right, you look at, I think if all the higher seeds win, you're looking at playing the Texans. And if, of course, there's a couple of upsets in here, you can look at the potential of playing the Steelers. You can look at the potential of playing the Dolphins, which would be a tough 6 seed to play. And you can look at the potential of playing the Browns, another AFC North team, which could be, which is another tough, just a tough game. Honestly, I think ideally, the Ravens don't want to see another AFC North team throughout these playoffs. But let's start out. First, we're going to start out with the most ideal. So this is let's start out with the realistic. So realistically, this is what I'm thinking. realistically, I feel, and hopefully I'm going off my picks correct here, but most realistically, I feel like the Texans are going to beat the Browns, right? So as of right now, the Texans at the 4 seed would play them. I don't think the Dolphins can beat the Chiefs. Not that I don't think they can beat them. I think the Dolphins are going to continue their losing against winning team struggle. So I would go with the Chiefs, so that would keep the Texans there. And then this one, I really feel like as much criticism as I gave the Steelers and their fans for celebrating and claiming that they would have a first round exit, I think the Steelers defense honestly is the perfect matchup for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And the reason I say that is the Buffalo Bills and those turnovers versus a Steelers defense who is opportunistic. Their offense, and that's the thing about it, their offense is not great. But if you put that offense in even better positions, let's just say that's how I'm really feeling. Like, so this in the AFC is how I'm really feeling, right? I'm feeling like in the divisional round, it's gonna be Steelers, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs. That's really how I'm feeling about it. I'm feeling like that's really how it's gonna be. And I honestly think that the Ravens beat the Steelers, and not just me being a homer, but also Steelers having to beat the Ravens 3 times in a row. That's a tough thing to do. That's a tough task to ask, right? I get that Lamar Jackson is 2-4 against the Ravens and against the Steelers, and I understand that the Steelers are 1-7 in the last 8 games. The Ravens are 1-7 in the last 8 games against the Steelers. I get that. Like, I understand that, but when it comes down to playoff football, you got an offense that can't even move the ball in the Steelers. And the Ravens have already played them twice. And the Ravens have shown that they can move the ball against them. They just can't really catch the ball against them, at least in the first game, right? The second game is a little bit of a wash because, you got backups playing. You got Tyler Huntley playing. You got defensive pieces missing. So I think the second game is a wash. So this game and kind of like the rematch, with both teams being mostly healthy as they can be, I think the Ravens will win that game. And then on this front, I would say that I would say the Chiefs would win this game, right? So the Ravens would host the AFC Championship, and I think they could beat the Chiefs. Now it's been, and maybe it hasn't been, but it's felt like it's been forever since the Ravens have played the Chiefs. I think the last time the Ravens played the Chiefs, it was the Odafe Owe save game, right? It was that game. That was the game where the Ravens played the Chiefs, and it looked like the Chiefs once again was gonna have the Ravens number, and the Ravens figured out a way to win that game. I don't, shout out to Odafe Owe. It's one of those things where, like, the thing about Owe is I think he's still developing. I think he's still progressing, but he has saved a couple of games here and there for the Ravens. So I think that would be, I think this is the Ravens, not perfect path, but this is the Ravens realistic path, right? I think this is how the games are going to go this weekend, and into the divisional round, into the conference round, right? So let's go back. I don't know if it's going, I hope it lets me, but let's see if I can go back and adjust some things here. Can I just, okay, I can adjust it that way. So let's go to the most difficult path. So this is what I feel like, excuse me, this is what I feel like would be the most difficult path to the Super Bowl for the Ravens, right? If there's a way that's going to be more difficult than the others, I think this is going to be. I think the Texans are still a tough matchup. I really do. I think they still would be a tough matchup, but I think seeing the Browns, the way that they're playing and the way that defense has been playing all year, the Browns are a hot team right now, right? So I would say the Browns would advance. And then, honestly, even though the Dolphins, I think the Dolphins' highs have been higher than the Chiefs' highs. So even though the Dolphins are the 6th seed, they kind of limped in a little bit, right? They backed in, however you want to say it. There's still so much talent on that team. There's still so much speed on that team, and you still got to reckon with them regardless. So the Dolphins would be a tough matchup again for the Ravens. Not because the Ravens can't beat them, because we've seen that they can, but just because of that speed. I mean, that speed is unparalleled. Like you can't even it's not even comparable to maybe anything we've ever really seen, man. But then the other game in the AFC is to see this. So basically, if I flipped all the games, I think that would be the hardest scenario. But I think even still, and maybe I should say it like this, I still think the Bills would be a tough matchup. But once again, I'm still saying the Bills' turnovers versus a good defense is still not going to necessarily prevail. I honestly, this is just my opinion. I think I would rather not see the Steelers than I would rather not see the Bills at some point. The reason I say I'd rather not see the Steelers is not because the Steelers are this great team. I would not want to see the Steelers because it's Steelers Ravens, and it's the craziest matchup you're ever going to see. If at any point the Ravens are going to drop 8 footballs again, it'll be against the Steelers again, right? If by hook or by crook was a team, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And they, the thing about it is they will find ways to beat you even with a bad team. Even if they gotta scratch and claw their way, they're gonna do it. So I still think, even still, this is the tough matchup right here, right? I think the Steelers will be the tougher of the two. So then that will bring us back down here again, right? That will bring us back down here again. So let's see. So that would put Pittsburgh and Baltimore still, like that would still be Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I say the same thing, right? The same thing I said earlier. I think the Steelers defense is really good. The Ravens have not, over the last couple of seasons, been great against the Steelers. But at the same time, if you take out all the craziness of there's been a couple of games where guys just didn't play or there's been injuries, right? You had the game in 2020 where the game got moved all over the place, right? Everybody was sick, right? So like it's a weird matchup that honestly you don't want to see. But I think the Ravens can definitely beat the Steelers regardless. And plus in this bracket, you got 3 AFC North teams total in this thing. So like, I mean, the teams that you've seen the most this year, you would have to see again in the playoffs. I just think that's the toughest way. That's the toughest road to the Super Bowl. It just is, right? And then between Miami and Cleveland, like honestly, you're looking at two completely opposite teams, right? You're looking at two completely opposite teams right here, right? You looking at Miami, who is just the high flying speed all over the place, still pretty good defense, but Miami's not a slow you down, grind it out type team. Cleveland is, even though Cleveland can hit the big shot because they have talent on that team. So I think for this one, honestly, I feel like the speed of Miami would outclass the kind of defensive grit of Cleveland, right? Even though Cleveland would be hosting the game, right? So I would say Miami on this one. But and actually, no, I'm wrong. I'm thinking about this wrong. I said what would be the hardest? Yeah, I think playing Miami again would be tough in the AFC Championship game. Honestly, playing Cleveland or Miami in the AFC Championship game will be tough. But I think the Ravens have shown time and time again that against Cleveland, they can find a way. But Cleveland also, I mean, they split the games with Cleveland this year. So I mean, what do you say? What do you even say? But I think Miami provides a tougher matchup because to play that speed again, and they kind of got an opportunistic defense at times too. So to play that speed again, I think is just tough, especially after you played the Steelers the week before. I mean, you know what? I think I'm gonna change it because I think the gauntlet honestly might be playing the AFC North back to back, right? The gauntlet might be playing the AFC, and I know the Ravens have done it this year already. But like having to play the AFC North back to back, having to play probably your most physical game against the Steelers in the divisional round, and then having to play another physical game against. I mean, you got one of the top pass rushers in the league. You got a team with talent on the offensive end. I think that would be another. I think this would be the hardest way. Honestly, I think you could go either way with Miami and Cleveland because you got either the speed of Miami or you got just the downright dirtiness of Cleveland just being the defense that they are. So, all right, let's do one more. Let's do the last one. So this is so we did the perfect, like the absolute, like this is gonna be the hardest. This is gonna be the hardest one. We did the realistic one. Let's do the perfect one. This is the perfect one. So the perfect path to a Ravens Super Bowl. So who I think they match up the best with throughout these playoffs. So I think I would say the Texans would advance, right? I still feel as if the Chiefs are a tough matchup. But I just don't know if I would want to see the speed of Miami again, right? I don't know if I'd want to see the speed of Miami again. So I go with the Chiefs, and then I honestly probably would still go with Pittsburgh. But I think the Ravens are a good matchup against Josh Allen's turnovers, right? I'm gonna always say that. I think because the Bills turn the ball over more than any team in the league, it feels like the Ravens are a good matchup for the Bills. Now, I will say, in terms of having to face either the Chiefs or the Dolphins, I think with the Chiefs, the concern you have going in is they've been there and done that, right? I feel like I'd almost want to face the Chiefs as opposed to the Dolphins because yes, they're well coached. Yes, they've been there and done that. But if we talking about not only being the perfect matchups, but also being you got a lot to talk about after the season, like saying, hey, we beat the Chiefs, we beat the Bills, right? Or however that plays out, then that's a whole nother thing too. So yeah, I would go with these three to advance, right? In the wild card round. That's gonna put the Ravens and the Texans. So the Ravens hosting the Texans, and then that's gonna put the Buffalo Bills hosting the Chiefs. Honestly, and it's interesting, like as you think about it going on, because the Ravens versus a rookie QB, a good rookie QB at that. But honestly, I think the perfect matchup to be able to brag, I guess, right? If you're into that type of thing, like I know we all feeling like who cares, right? Just win the Super Bowl. I don't care who we play. I don't care if we have to infiltrate the NFC before we get to the AFC. It don't matter, right? Like I get it, but just talking scenarios, I feel like Cleveland, because Cleveland's already got a victory over you in the season. I think that would be, and plus it gives the NFL a better story, right? It gives the NFL the Joe Flacco versus Lamar Jackson story that I think the NFL wouldn't mind having anyway, right? It gives them that story. It gives them Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson, playoff Joe. So, and it gives them too playoff Joe versus the lack of success that Lamar's had. Let's put that together. So I think as Ravens fans, I feel like we would want to see the Browns for, because I mean, we once again talking about Sue, just the extras here, right? The narratives, right? How can you take down every narrative? Winning the Super Bowl will take down every narrative regardless. I don't care if you play every low seed. I don't care if you play every high seed. I don't care if you play a mixture in between. So I think playing Cleveland though to give that kind of matchup, that former QB versus current QB type thing, mentor versus mentee type thing. Two Ravens legends going at it too, like, and plus you could honestly say that you could honestly say and probably almost say too that Lamar Jackson is maybe taking over Joe Flacco as a Ravens legend so far, and especially if he wins a Super Bowl. So, but I think to beat Cleveland, good defense, good talent on the offensive end. Of course, mentor mentee matchup. We said before, Flacco Jackson matchup. We said that before. So I think that would be a good one. And then in terms of the Chiefs and the Bills, it's crazy to think because either way, right? The Chiefs are the team that you have struggled to beat time and time again, and the Bills are your last playoff loss, right? The Bills are your last playoff loss, which I feel like a lot of people forget. So honestly, I still think you. I mean, you can't go wrong. Like, I think this is what I love about the playoffs. You can't go wrong here. You really can't. Like, you can't go wrong in terms of a perfect scenario. You can't go wrong in terms of a scenario where you get a little bit of bragging rights, but at the same time, you still get the Lombardi Trophy too. Like, you really can't go wrong between the matchup of the Chiefs and the Bills. You can't. There's no way. There's literally no way to go wrong here. So I still think it will be the Chiefs because you also got the Chiefs coming in as the defending champions, right? Now the Bills, that's avenging your last playoff loss. So either way, you feel good about beating either one of those teams in the AFC Championship game. But to play the defending Super Bowl champions in the AFC Championship game would be everything and more, I think, for the Ravens to have a successful Super Bowl run, right? So that would be a lot of fun. Real quick to wrap it up, let's do the rest of the NFC as well. So I'm gonna go back to my real picks. So I guess either way, even in my real picks, even my real scenario, I still got the Ravens playing. I didn't think about that. I still got the Ravens playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But then, can I pick from down here? I'm gonna be real mad if I didn't been scrolling up and down this whole time and I could have picked from right here. So when it comes to Philly and Tampa, feel free to follow along as well. If you ain't picked any of these games yet, feel free to follow along. Between Philly and Tampa, I honestly think Tampa's gonna win. I know it's crazy. Like, it's crazy to think Tampa coming out of that division and the inconsistencies they've had, but you got Philly, who's dealing with injuries. Let me see one more time. Considering they play tomorrow, is there an update on AJ Brown? Let's look real quick. Let's see what we got. So from the Philly pod, AJ Brown missed his first game since being traded to Philadelphia, is what it's saying. And these are just tweets, so I mean, take them as you may. Let's look up an article. And see if there's an official report out on AJ Brown, because this is, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, he's out. He's officially out. New York Post said it. ESPN said it. So he's officially out with whatever that knee injury is. Honestly, my curiosity killing the cat here when it comes to what that injury is. I'm curious to see what it is, because we read it during the playoff preview stream. We read it kind of talking about, hey, like what could this injury be? So let's see. It don't even say. It just says in the injury. It says he tried to work hard to make it back, but so I mean, so if he's tried to work hard to make it back, then that means it's probably not as serious as it looked, kind of like we said in the playoff preview. So I mean, AJ Brown is part of the reason why the Eagles are so good. Jalen Hurts is also dealing with whatever that finger injury was too. So that's why I feel like Tampa could win this game, because Tampa. Let's think about it, right? Tampa's got a good, talented defense, and they have talent on offense, regardless of what you want to think about Baker Mayfield. And for Baker to win a playoff game for two separate organizations, and after being kind of ousted in Cleveland, that'd be very interesting. So I would go with Tampa on the upset of Philly, which technically, from the seeding perspective, is not an upset, but from a record perspective and from what we've really seen on the field, is an upset. I would go Tampa, right? I would go Tampa because Tampa is not dealing with nearly as much as the Eagles are dealing with right now, especially if supposedly Jalen Hurts has lost the locker room and all that. If you want to believe in those rumors, feel free. But very, very interesting. So then with the Rams and Detroit, I really think the Rams are going to upset Detroit too. Like, I hate to pick all the upsets because, that's not nice. But I hate to pick all the upsets, but I feel like the Rams are going to upset Detroit. I don't know what it is. There's just something feeling within me where I feel like the Rams will upset Detroit. And I think it's wild to even think about, but That's what I'm thinking. And then Green Bay and Dallas, same thing here. I feel like Green Bay is going to upset Dallas. I don't know what it is. I feel like Dallas is going to come out flat, and they're just not going to be able to get back up. I really do, and I picked that. I picked that yesterday in that show, but you got to pick one high seed, right? But the crazy part is when it comes down to okay, I'm gonna stick with my gut. I'm gonna stick with my gut. What I said initially, I'm gonna stick with it. So you got that right, and then coming into the divisional round, you got the number 1 seeded San Francisco 49ers, number 7 Green Bay Packers. All right, so I don't think Green Bay is gonna beat San Francisco. I think that's a tough matchup, right? If any team would do it, it probably would be Green Bay. We've seen Green Bay play up the competition all year long, but in the playoffs, I think San Francisco they found a way to be successful regardless. I mean, this would be probably their third, if I'm not mistaken, straight NFC Championship appearance. So, I mean, it's tough to keep them out. Same thing with the Chiefs, on the other side. So, and then you got the LA Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think LA. I mean, I don't know about this. I can't speak to this truthfully, but I feel like LA would probably be the 4th seed if they went record wise, right? They probably would end up being the 4th seed anyway. So I think to have LA versus Tampa, that would be interesting, right? That would be interesting. And then NFC wise, NFC Championship game, San Francisco and LA. That's tough, man. You got 2 young offensive minds. You got, I mean, 2 teams who've not necessarily been there, done that per se, but at least in the NFC Championship game, they've been there, done that, right? Like 2 teams, veteran led. Like, do you trust Brock Purdy over Matt Stafford? That's a whole nother question right there. Honestly, I think San Francisco would find a way. They will find a way to win it, and then we get the rematch that a lot of people probably want to see. A lot of people say it will be the Super Bowl preview anyway in Baltimore and San Francisco. So, and of course, yay, Lombardi. Confetti everywhere, right? Super Bowl trophies, and not it's only one, but Super Bowl trophies everywhere. Let's just say it like that anyway. But I feel like these are the paths, right? These are the paths to a Ravens Super Bowl, and it's gonna be, I mean, best time of the year. Best time of the year. The playoffs is always a whole lot of fun. Sometimes way too much fun, because you just never know what you're gonna get. You never, and honestly, that's what makes this type of stuff so hard. So I hope you followed along with me as well. Like I hope you followed along and just try to go through the difficultness of trying to figure this stuff out, man. Because this is what's fun about the NFL, especially when it gets to January and February. It gets anybody, and we talk about any given Sunday throughout the regular season. This is truly any given Sunday. But remember, Fly Nation Speaks is on all major podcasting platforms. So be sure, if you want to take the show on the road with you, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I mean, YouTube got podcasts too. So, over there as well. So if you want to take the show with you, feel free to do that as well. I encourage you to do that as well. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to take it with you and listen to it. Put it in at work as long as your work is safe enough to do such a thing. But put it in at work, and we as Ravens fans can come together and we can have a little bit of fun. But I definitely hope you guys enjoyed this show. Please let me know whether you got to tweet me or leave it in the comments. I don't care. Let me know what your thoughts on these playoffs is going to be. What do you feel like the Ravens' perfect matchup, the perfect scenario for Ravens Super Bowl? And I'm gonna get on out of here until next time.